Wednesday. That means it's DeFi review day here, Brave New Coin. Let's take a look at some charts that I think matter more than anything else in the DeFi realm and sphere. TA has really been the guiding light in a storm of nonsense. That is DeFi data currently. If we start with the DeFi perp here, which is an index of the top DeFi coins according to FTX, for the past couple months, really, ever since August, we first saw a glimpse of bullishness as we got above the cloud. Prior to that, we were above the 200 again. So this was all pre-show, people still getting to their seats, getting ushered in. And in October, we finally had that definitive bullish Kumo breakout with bullish TK cross. This is the cloud, if you don't know what I'm talking about. This red and green fill back here. If you're above the cloud, you're bullish. If you're below, you're bearish. So we've got the cloud, we've got the 200-day moving average, which is pretty standard TA. And then we've also got this weird wonky range here. We have lows, we have highs prior to November. So currently we're above the range at the mean reversion point on the Kijun, which is this red line here on the cloud. We are attempting a tweezer bottom on the daily, which doesn't confirm until tomorrow. We need a candle close above today's candle, ideally above the body. What you absolutely don't want to see tomorrow is a new lower low over the past 3 days, because that would invalidate the tweezer bottom. Here's a good example of another tweezer bottom. How you want it to look. This was even a spinning top at the bottom here. All this might sound like nonsense to somebody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, but you want to see this type of bottom, especially a bottom into the Kijun here. This red line, the mean reversion point. That's what you want to see here if we are to maintain bullishness. It is a bit troublesome, a bit worrisome. The RSI has dipped below 50. We want this back above 50. If you're bullish, you want to be above 50. Wouldn't be the end of the world. Something else to watch for is a break back into this range. You don't want to do that, because then we're bullish here, we're bearish here, we're neutral here. That's the outlook. There's tons of volume in here that we're going to get stuck in. Support and resist wise, we may support at the 200. We may support at this high volume node at 10.3 on the index, but you just don't want to. I want to look at a chart and I don't want to have to say, that's pretty neutral, or I don't know. It should be extremely obvious instantly what you're looking at. So right now, the obvious thing to me is we're at the top of the previous range. We need to bounce here. It's kind of bounce or die type of situation. So I'm not super concerned, but we do need to get a move on here fairly shortly. And ultimately, we're not truly bearish until we're all the way down here at 7783, but we don't want to risk that. We don't want to let go of what we have here. Now, there was a decent bear div on this as well. Higher high in price here, lower high in RSI. You probably saw that on a higher time frame, but in general, wasn't too, nothing looks terrible is basically how I'd put it. Just checking out the liquidation volume compared to May. May was, this was May, right? May was a mess, a quick mess. The liquidation volume currently is nothing. It's the high for the month at 21 million. This is across all chains that the bank tracks. And the high was 660 million across all lending and borrowing platforms that the bank tracks. That was on May 18th. So if this is end of days, we are not even close to those type of liquidations. So if you're already getting mega wrecked and we go further south, it's not going to get any better for you. I wanted to mention CRO real quick. I don't really think it's DeFi necessarily. It's in our DeFi portfolio. It is an exchange token for crypto.com. It may behave similar to BNB. We just kind of let this run. The expectation in September when we picked this up wasn't that it was going to mega moon super quickly. It just looked good, and it was kind of different than anything else we had. Sort of fit the DeFi narrative, and it's done really well. I don't know necessarily why, but it's up 3x from our entry plus. So yeah, I mean, if you have this, I don't know where you let go. I think you just wait for some weakness. It actually wicked to 0.62 today, which is the 4618 of this high to low. You don't see this too often when everything else is sort of crumbling. That's the weird part, that this thing has just slingshotted so quickly since November. I don't know if it's the advertising they're doing, no clue, but it's done quite well. Also wanted to talk about Link. I've gotten quite a few questions about the USD pair specifically, and there's two things I'm watching very closely that I always have in my 2x4 panel. I have Link on the bottom right. I'm always watching it every day. The first thing is this pitchfork. Pick 3 points, you get a rate of change, you get a projection, and the more ranging you get within the pitchfork, the more confident I get that price is knowing that it exists. It knows that rate of change, price, the market, the people trading, whatever. And since 2019, it had been within this pitchfork. It's currently struggling to get back in. That's the first thing that I'd see. The second thing is this MA multiplier in the background here. This is the 1 year MA in green, 5 times that in the red. Historically, it's done quite well at picking tops and bottoms. It's currently off the bottom, but nowhere near the midline here, nowhere near the 5x multiple. Most recently, it didn't even hit that 5x multiple. So the expectation for me is that if this thing can return to the pitchfork, which may be a tall order, but if it can get back in here, then it will want to return to the midline, which is currently at 82, somewhere around there. That's also the midline of the MA multiplier as well. I don't expect price to reach for this 5x multiple because it hasn't since mid-2020. The expectation for me is midline and midline here. It's not necessarily the 150 target or whatever that is. So it's those two things plus this ascending triangle, which should break up. This does carry a bullish bias. It should break up. It's running out of room here. Anytime you get a triangle pattern like this, you want price to move when the pattern is 3/4 full. Generally on backtesting, math, blah, 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 that's where they break up. So it's getting towards D-Day. If this doesn't move and just sort of goes to the very edge of the triangle here, it more than likely will drop. It probably won't carry that bullish bias anymore. So this really needs to not make any lower lows. That's the first thing. And to get a move on here. You can already see the MA multiplier sort of curving flat and less bullish over the past few months. Now everything else is kind of just like neutral, maker, neutral. But again, I don't want to look at a chart and say, I don't know, this could be multi-shouldered head and shoulders. This could break down again, even though it looked like it was safe with a bull cross here. There's definitely a low time frame head and shoulders here that's currently breaking down, but this one is what I'm talking about. Shoulder, head, shoulder, shoulder, or just the general triangle, something, right? I don't want equilateral triangles. I hate them. They're 50-50 coin flip. In general, on the top of a trend, they're bullish. On the bottom of a trend, they're bearish, but I don't want to be hemming and hawing over what that should be. This needs to get a move on. Like all of DeFi, it needs to hit the previous local highs if it's going to really do something. And we can look at the DeFi perp has already exceeded that, right? This is what I'm expecting for all of DeFi. This needs to get moving because the more it knocks on this door of support at 2,500, 2,700, the more likely it is to finally open that door and go through that door lower to 2K, just in this specific example. MAs don't really help you here. Nothing really helps you here. It's just flat, low volume. Needs to get a move on. Comp looks more bearish than maker. Flat, low volume, needs to get a move on. At volume support, definitely not bullish on trend. This needs something. Otherwise, it's risking revisiting 200. It's really that simple. It needs to get back above the 200-day moving average. Needs to retest 480. Aave, same thing. It's at a risk of a just mega bear trend at this point. It's been in this range since February and done nothing. So if we're ranging and we're knocking on the bottom of that range over and over and over, and no one wants to buy the middle of the range, the top of the range, they'd rather sell all of that, then yeah, this thing's going to go lower. It's going to break this June low. It needs to get a move on. It needs to get back above the 200. You can see how long it just hung up here. It did nothing. It did absolutely nothing. At 300, 330, nobody wanted to buy it. Nobody wanted to buy it. No volume, nothing, no excitement. Even after that, it needs to get above 400, which is this mega local high based on all these touches here. So Aave's in some trouble here. Uni, kind of the same boat. It's below the 200 now. And it had this potential inverted head and shoulders, just went nowhere. Just flatlined here at 25. And no one wanted to touch it. There were no buyers after this, just no volume. That's another general theme across the board. Just there's no volume anywhere. Nobody wants to buy any of this DeFi stuff. I don't even know. I should have put volume on this chart. Let me just check real quick on CRO. Yeah, so this is KuCoin. I don't trust anything on this exchange ever, but Here's again an example. This is most likely more than most of it's fake, let's be honest here. But you can see how volume was flat and then explosion of volume, right? Coinbase, something I trust certainly more than KuCoin. Same thing. This is lower time frames, but volume basically flat, and then you get an explosion in volume. That's what we need on all this stuff. It just there's nobody at the table. Even BTC and ETH, the common theme lately has just been there's no volume. Sushi, same story. No volume, below the range, below the middle of the range, below the 200, not below the range, but you know what I mean, below the middle of the range here. Just there's an exciting nothing going on here. Curve, a bit of a bright light in an otherwise dim market at the moment. Even still, no volume up here. It's kind of got this falling wedge characteristic. I don't hate it. It certainly looks better than 80% of DeFi right now. And I still like that 5 to 6 target in the near term based on fibs. If everything continues to decline, I'd expect a 200 retest on curve, which is around 275, let's say, somewhere in that area. Balancer got denied at the 200, not a good look. Just no volume, no excitement, nobody cares. That's it, right? It's at the VPVR support. After that, it's local low and previous resistance turn support at 17. That's a big level historically. There's also this head and shoulders neckline as well. It's funny, it went from head and shoulders to inverted head and shoulders, double bottom, breakout, ascending triangle, falling or rising wedge, back and forth, mega breakdown, double bottom. Ever since then, it's just been random walkie, kind of, with the head and shoulders here, but it's been unable to get above this 200. Definitely an issue for Balancer. BNT had been looking pretty strong off the lows, but it was just sitting in this tight range for so long, no volume whatsoever. And now it's risking revisiting that low at 320. Just no momentum so far anywhere. ZRX had a little bit of volume kick in here on Binance the other day, and it's pretty much lost all of that. Just no momentum, ranging mess. Does not look incredibly bullish. It looks better than neutral, but I wouldn't say much better than that. This thing doesn't really have a mind of its own, so it's not going to move against everything if everything else is bearish, even though it does look decently okay. 1 inch still in the range. This is probably just an avoid for now. Now what you could do is buy around 380-ish, whatever the 200-day moving average is here, with the assumption that it will get back into this range and just range around up here. What you don't want to see from 1 inch, if you're bullish, is a break below the 200, a break below this VPVR, a break below the range. Then you get back into the $2 to 380 range, as opposed to the 380 to 580 range. So I don't hate this down here. It just doesn't look, it doesn't give me strong bullish vibes. 1 inch volume as well, also just nothing. Volume, just nothing everywhere. SNX volume, kind of mild. Just kind of drifting lower already at new multi-month, multi-week lows. Was unable to recatch this higher high here. And just generally doesn't look super bullish. It's below the 200 still. Below the VPVR level at 10. And lastly, Melon breaking down below support. Still above the 200-day moving average, but looking less and less healthy over the past couple weeks. And again, volume, just zero, nothing. Nobody wants to buy it up here. Nobody wants to sell it. Nobody could care less. That's basically how it looks. The worst thing you can have here is an emotionless market because you'll just drift. You're going to drift lower. We've been going up since many months for most of this stuff, and it's just going to continue drifting lower. Lastly, let me just mention the ETH-BTC fund and DeFi portfolio I trade for Techemy Capital and Enzyme.Finance, a non-custodial portfolio management tool where you can send ETH or USDC or just watch what I'm doing. You can see everything, including AUM, performance, allocation, some vaults that I'm in here on Yearn.Comp and Aave on occasion, as well as the trades in the trades tab down below. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Happy trading.